If you're hand building on the toilet, you're probably building a lineup that you think is 250, but it's probably actually 118 versus our 138. And when we flip yours to ceiling, it's 155 or 165, and you actually thought it was 250 sitting there. I know what's up. I can do it. It's, that's really the difference of it. We're just trying to compare up against that because you don't really have to go as far off the board as you probably think.
You're entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now will get you a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. And if you participated in the Pat Mayo Experience $25,000 Pick'em Giveaway League, the leaderboard is now available in the description, or you can get it into the newsletter. Of note, I am not expecting to be doing a show on Saturday with the rankings update. I have to travel for family things, so I may not have an opportunity to do that. I will be writing the newsletter, however, so if you're looking for ownerships on DraftKings, who the chalk plays are going to be, who the best plays, the very best plays, Tambo, who they're going to be, you can check out the newsletter for that with the updated rankings, the injury report, and everything that you need to know. That's also down in the description right now, and is free to join. So go do it. You go. You're on your computer. You go do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm just still thinking about you watching the debate the other night and then bringing it right into the show instantly. So here we go.
Thursday night was a tough scene for Tua, man.
Man, crazy. Just scary stuff when you see that. Obviously, the hands, sort of went up again. Just right away. I don't know. At first, didn't even seem that bad. But then you're like, man, why doesn't this guy slide? And then sure enough again. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. But definitely ruined what could have been a better game in the second half. Turned out to be no more points scored pretty much.
How did you guys do?
That was all right. The show we had yesterday on the network was good. I think it's just, going through everything. It's sort of the one that always comes out, and it'll be for this one, was the Tyreek people. There's no way he can have a good game, and he didn't. He had a bad game. Mind you, he didn't play very much in the second half. All these other things, no excuses. But the funny thing is the Tyreek people are the Achane people. Achane, did you guys know the last 3 games he was on the injury report, he had a horrible game. It's like, again, it's all, the same people are the same people. Achane smashed, crushed, did what was expected.
Taken by Achane.
Yeah.
I probably should have just trusted the sports books when they posted the over-under rushing attempts at 11.5. It was like, the guy wasn't even going to play. He has a mid-ankle sprain. He's one cut away from being on the ground, and that's the end of him. Easy under. No, he had the career high in carries.
And funny, they were still rolling him out there, even at the end of the game. After Tua was gone.
So he was fine then.
Yes, he was absolutely fine. Who's the guy everyone was giving credit to? Omar Kelly?
Yeah.
This guy comes out and basically says, he's one of the dudes. He's a Tyreek Achane guy. He's like, well, he's either going to be really good or he's going to be super limited. We'll wait and see. Yeah, no shit. Flip a coin, pal. Thanks.
Thanks for the update on that one.
Yeah, good stuff.
I'm using runthesims.com to generate my lineups, and if you want all the tools, go to runthesims.com right now. The prop sniper, the underdog tool is all there, or you can use code Mayo, and you can use code Mayo at shipitnation.com, where you can get access to all the teaching tools and all the picks and plays of the week from you guys.
Yeah, main thing is we're focused on the process over there. Lots going on right now with NFL back. Had a huge, all kinds of guys in Discord last night. Huge nights. And then college football. I know there was a takedown there. Shout out to my guy Hamhawk. And then PGA, even round 1 showdown, still rolling it and having some good results there. So lots of good action over at Ship It Nation.
So I'm going to try to incorporate a bit of the injury report, which we don't generally talk about because we record this on Friday morning. Obviously, we're recording even earlier than normal because I have a flight to catch here in about 3 hours. So we'll see how long the show goes and see how pressed up I get against my flight time. Hopefully they don't give away my seat. That'd be bad news.
Don't do that. Any big news and injuries this week?
I'm monitoring. Let's start with running backs.
I think there's going to be big news for sure. It's huge, I think.
Well, I think there's 2 really big ones right now. Everyone is just acting like Christian McCaffrey is out, which is not the case. He might play this week. Because last week he was supposed to play and didn't play. So I theorized that they expect him not to play this week, so he is going to play. But still, when we run like all of the simulations and everything, Jordan Mason is the lead. He's like the best play on DraftKings this week. It's not even close.
Which does, I know we do it on Friday. We always do it, so it's always going to be this way. You got to check for the updates. You got to watch usually on Saturdays.
And
we'll be there this
so
week.
The newsletter this week, where I'll have more of a write-up in it.
Newsletter, Sunday with us. But the point would be, is you're right. When you go look it up right now, it's anywhere from Christian McCaffrey is playing and he says he's good to go and he'll be fine to this could be a season-ending thing for this team. Like you can find almost from health to death on this guy right now. It's insane.
The other 2 to look at, and again, we're just talking main slate for Sunday. Fortunately, that's 1 million games this week, so it's all good. And they're all at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Ken Walker has not practiced yet this week, so Friday's going to be a very important day for him. But there's a chance he doesn't go. He missed 2 games with this injury last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then that leaves Charbonnet. Like, would you like Charbonnet as the lead guy against New England?
I'm not really as interested. And like you said, I think that's kind of the other elephant in the room. It's early in the season, so we got all the games. There's 14 games, I think, on this slate, or maybe 13. But then there's only 3 of them in the afternoon. So, I mean, that's in the morning. You have tons of options to choose from. So I have to wait and see as more news comes out.
Like, he's $5,800 on DraftKings.
Yeah. I just don't know. We'll have to see when we build it out if we need it. But, you know.
I mean, there's like a pretty obvious, like I went through and made like what I would assume is the chalkiest build, and also with some of the guys that I like, and I used the Run the Sims optimizer and kind of took like oh, that was like weirdly close, which is never the case. So I think there are some really obvious plays that stand out. So we'll have to figure out how to get around that. The only other one to really watch out for, I guess, would be Josh Jacobs. He's been limited all week. I think he's just an old man now.
Yeah.
In football terms, he's like 28, but
yeah.
he's been limited with his back injury. Malik Willis is playing quarterback. It's probably not a great situation to begin with, but just keep an eye on him. When we think about like who the plays are at running back this week, I think it just comes down to if Christian McCaffrey is out, Jordan Mason is $5,200. I will play him in every lineup.
Yep, I think that's what's going to be the case as well. That's how you're going to have to get your leverage, because I think even right now, early ownership is going to show him, 40 to 45 range. I would see it coming in a lot higher than that, especially. We'll get the news, right? Especially if he's ruled out. It's an early game, so we're going to find out about Christian McCaffrey. And then, but the other thing, the flip side of that coin, Pat, is if everyone's building their lineups today, I know we're going to walk through them and we'll do some if-then scenarios, but people build their lineups out now, they love it, and then the news flips, and all of a sudden CMC is playing at 8,700, and then it's a different decision altogether.
The other two, I'm just looking at the Run the Sims points per dollar. It's Kyron Williams and James Conner are the next 2 up, but I worry about both of those guys because I don't know if either team has any offensive linemen left. The Rams are down at least 3, could be 4 starting offensive linemen. It's a problem.
Yeah, I think the other thing to go with that is that the Kyren Williams play, how many people are going to want to play him with Cooper Kupp?
The optimizer does.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 21 targets last week and only $7,600. I mean, he might be a better play on paper than Jordan Mason, but only because we don't have the full CMC news. If that comes out, obviously Jordan Mason at 5,200, just pop him in. But I'm saying if you go to wide receiver, you don't usually get an option like this.
All right, I think I would like Pacheco over Williams right now for $100 more.
Good news there is it's another way to get a piece of that game. And also early on, just not that we're at quarterback yet or stacking, but looks like Patrick Mahomes could be pretty popular this week just because it's actually possible to get him for cheap.
Somehow no one will play him with Kelsey, and Kelsey will have 3 touchdowns.
And I don't know, maybe they will this week because Kelsey's only 6,200. I think what people saw is they got to see the Thursday night football game. They saw how it seemed a little bit more condensed this time around. It's Rice, Worthy, Kelsey, Pacheco. That's the offense with him in one game. Again, week 2 is a week of overreactions, right? So we'll have to talk about that as well when we go through some of these builds.
Right now I have, in terms of ownership, obviously it's too early to really hammer down, and one injury can kind of flip the slate on this, but Mason way ahead of everyone. Breece Hall very high up too at $7,400. Pacheco, Kyron, Ramondre, Jerome Ford, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Rashad White is what I'm seeing right now. But obviously that has Kenneth Walker still in. If Kenneth Walker is there, how because the Charbonnet thing I find very interesting, because it's obviously a tougher matchup in New England, despite the fact that they're favorites. You would anticipate that Charbonnet would have around 70% of the carries, maybe more, because who knows?
Yeah,
in that backfield, but he's $5,800. Like there's better plays who get more touches for cheaper.
They built him in as the possibility that he's in. Because if you look at it, Kenneth Walker's only 6,300, and Kenneth Walker was good last week. He had like 21 DraftKings points and a touchdown called back.
He was like
was right there.
The only guy in my lineups who was any good whatsoever.
Okay, there you go. That's week 1 for you. But I think
it's not Sam Darnold's fault. He was too good and got game scripted out.
We got to go back to him this week too.
We might have to.
Even
San Fran D.
The red zone. They were calling him Darnold Dimes is what they moved the nickname over from Danny and just gave it to Darnold. But I think that we'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, there's the other guy you mentioned earlier, but then not in that crew that I heard was James Conner. Yeah,
Conner is down. I have him 8th in ownership right now,
which is another guy I could see rise as the week goes on, as people realize that's a really good game to get action with when those pieces are already falling into your lineups. And the prices are right, and everywhere that's going, the total, all of that, I think these just start to slip into your lineups.
Kind of like the Ds in those games.
Okay. You can definitely have Ds in the high-scoring games.
Well, think about how much Buffalo's D screwed Josh Allen Thursday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did Josh Allen score? 9 points?
It wasn't good.
Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously James Cook was a big,
3 touchdowns takes away from that. Yeah.
but it's not like the D kept turning them over, leaving short fields or returning it for pick sixes. There was just no field for Josh Allen to operate and gain yardage and fantasy points. So sometimes your defense can absolutely screw you. That's why I do like the opposing D as the outlier correlation to that. And I do think that San Fran's D with Darnold would be a play.
You tried that last week. Yeah.
It turns out the Giants D wasn't very good.
Yes. Again, large slates. I'm not doing that, but I was going to say I didn't even look last week. Do you know if Kieran Williams actually did do punt returns?
I don't
Because he was supposed to. Remember the start of the season and all that? So this week you could get the correlation, get Kieran Williams in there, who's already popping up, throw the Rams D in against Kyler, who can't see over the linebackers, and that's why he can't get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. So
it's interesting to me only because so much was made about that. And it's like, oh, Blake Corum. I don't think Blake Corum played a snap. It was Ronnie Rivers who was running as the primary backup. Yet Debo's on Monday night returning kickoffs. People are like, yeah, Debo, let's go.
Yeah, it's always the way it goes.
Which one is it?
I think Jaden Reed was returning them as well, like for Green Bay, and having himself a good game otherwise, and people love that. It's just random stuff in the offseason that people have to go on about.
I think that people forgot that they changed the kickoff rules to make it a lot safer for these guys to return kicks. So why not put your best guys out there if it's just giving them a free touch where they can run at full speed up against someone?
Yeah, and hopefully they're smart enough to stay out of the way and avoid these concussions and whatnot.
Don't lead with your head like Tua. Do you think Tua ever plays again?
It's possible he doesn't. Honestly,
I think that he does.
I think he does, but I'm saying the way they put it out there, and I forget which one I saw. I think it was on X where they framed it up with how many in the period of time. It's not good.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you get hit and you're throwing up thriller hands, it's not.
They were
ideal.
back last night, man. They were back.
Wide receivers. So the injury report is a little bit janky for this right now because you have a couple of veterans who haven't practiced. But for example, Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen haven't practiced yet this week. If they get into practice on Friday, they're going to be fine. But let's say they both miss it. Odunze would be ruled out in my mind. But Keenan Allen would still have a chance to play because they do this with veterans. Unless they list him as doubtful and they still list him as questionable, he still might be in. But that's Sunday Night Football, so we're not really too concerned about that. Hollywood Brown's looking like he's not playing. Jordan Addison's probably not going to play. T. Higgins probably isn't going to play. Still haven't seen what's going on with Josh Reynolds, who just popped up out of nowhere with an Achilles injury. Then you have Devon Vale on the Broncos, who's also might not play with a ribs injury. So not looking great for the Broncos passing offense. Jameson Williams has been practicing in a limited capacity all week. He probably will end up going for Detroit, it seems. Josh Downs has practiced Wednesday and Thursday. If he practices again on Friday, then he's likely to be in. A.T. Perry is going to be in. He practiced in full. Then, Puka Nacua is not playing. So
the Nacua one matters because obviously that's why we're already I mean, like I said, Kupp is just not going to be overlooked by any means. That's fine. But then do you go to Demarcus Robinson? What about Tyler Johnson? Like there's different guys there that you can use down the board. So
at $7,600, Cooper Kupp is far and away the best points per dollar player on the slate.
Yeah, I think a lot of lineups, and rightfully so, understood that they just start with Kupp and Mason if CMC's out because that's costs you nothing. And you're getting a ton of volume right there. And you can still get different. That's what we'll find when we go through and start building, but you can definitely get different around that.
I thought that people would go away from Andre Yoshevas after last week. They're not. They're right back in.
Yeah, he's only 3,800 still. And again, the injuries and how it all sets up and whatnot. He did get 6 targets. He caught 3 balls. That's what people forget is it's still price oriented. It matters. We're playing a salary game. So it's he doesn't have to break the slate. He was still on the Millie Maker winning lineup and other ones out there last week. So you can see it, at least in the Mega Millie, he was on there. The other Millie Maker, the $5 had your boy, Josh Reynolds, who you just brought up, was somehow on there. And I didn't even know he still played football, let alone for whatever it is, the Broncos or whoever it is. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, perfect. So yeah, that's just an example of how it goes. But yeah, I think price wise, you'll probably still see Yoshi pop up into some of these lineups here.
Malik Neighbors is also on the injury report as well. He popped up on Thursday. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think we're going to go right back to him too.
Friday's the day that matters for these things. So that's why subscribing to the newsletter, I'll have a full breakdown of that. You know what? I probably will end up recording a show.
I know you will. I said that pre-show. I'm wondering what he's talking about. Oh, I won't record a show this weekend, but at least I'll have the newsletter. And I said, Pat will be in the back of a little room in a hotel or wherever he's staying at a family member's or something. He'll have a little light hooked up, his laptop, and he'll be in there whispering into the mic just to get a show out there. He doesn't stop. It's awesome.
I gotta download Premiere on this so I can so I can edit my audio. I'll get Audition it maybe and go through it that way. So the best projected ownership right now, somehow Rashee Rice is ahead of Cooper Kupp in what I'm seeing initially.
Yeah, it's just again same thing. It's the other guys that are there. It's the price, $6,700. Put him with Mahomes, who's only $7K. We'll see when we build it. I'm a never Mahomes guy. I'm kind of interested in this slate because not only is it week 2, maybe everything's setting up perfect for me to win the Millie finally. Because I never play Mahomes on main slates. I know his offense does look, and at least on paper, even more condensed than we've seen in the past. So I get it. It'll feel tough to fade it, but there's nothing better than just going against the grain in week 2 when everybody thinks they know everything. So could be a perfect storm.
I think you hit on it there. All the top plays this week are just guys who did well in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Who are probably a bit lesser valued versus lesser price versus their performance from week 1. Like, yeah, Rashee Rice is awesome. 67 is probably where he should be all year. And that's not like a value for him. Like sometimes he's not great. Maybe it's an Xavier Worthy game. Maybe Kelsey does something. Maybe they just run the ball a whole bunch. Like everyone's just penciling Kansas City in to win this game. I like Kansas City too. But I checked my record in the picks. It's not great.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things to say on that just because sticking on the Kansas City topic and the topic of the overarching, it's, everyone just follows what happened last week was, I think a lot of times in week 2, and I've been playing this game for many years, it's the setup of we do typically land in the right place. It's just not necessarily the right players. And an example with Kansas City would be is tight end. It's a onesie position. Kelsey did nothing in week 1. Rice is going to have ownership. Mahomes is going to have ownership.
Worthy's going to have ownership.
Worthy's going to have
Pacheco.
some. Pacheco's going to have some. It looks like Kelsey could come in at like 10% because there's just going to be cheaper options. There's going to be stuff like Njoku's out, so Jordan Akins gets love, all this stuff where maybe it's just Kelsey that you throw into your lineup and he catches 8 balls for 90 yards and a touchdown. It doesn't necessarily mean that Mahomes goes off. It hurts Pacheco and some of the other guys like Rice and Worthy, and you do need to play a tight end no matter what. What if all the cheap tight ends that people fill in with all do shitty, and that's just what makes it happen? So, in that case too, you'd be getting on lower price stacks because you're not going to Mahomes at the quarterback position. So it's just little things like that I'm always looking for as angles of way to attack.
There's a game that I'm stacking up this week, and I know that it's not it's not an unpopular game or a hot take, but it's not the cheapest. And I think it's going to keep ownership in check just because like seeing the highest priced receivers in some of these games. Like on paper, Bucks Lions is going to be a shootout, yet no one seems to want to do Goff with Amon-Ra.
Mm-hmm. We like Amon-Ra. We talked about him a lot in the first look too. I think at 8,100, it just didn't. It didn't happen in the first game. He was out there everywhere. It just didn't work out. But it's $8,100. Like you can definitely get there. You can play the stack. You can run it back. There's all those guys. Like Godwin's still going to be popular, but is the other stuff going to go with it? And even then, he's kind of got pushed down a little bit at 6K.
That's the weird thing.
So
like all the options are pretty appealing, yet they seem slightly overvalued based on the other. Like if you could have Amon-Ra at 81 or Cooper Kupp at 76, 1v1, Cooper Kupp's a much better play.
It also seems, to your point there, I'm just going to attach onto that. Sorry, is that like we know Kupp, we know Kieran Williams. But are the overstacks coming in? Are people actually going to get to that game with a 48-point total in a dome and a close spread? Or is it just that people are setting up kind of on, Cincy, Kansas City, and then a little bit with that game when they start seeing the pieces fall in, that still leaves Tampa Bay, Detroit out, even with the highest total, where they're just getting a piece of it some way, shape, or form.
Another example, like Mike Evans looks legitimately unowned at this point.
Right. Even Baker, what is he at right now? Super low. Yeah. 5,900 for Baker.
Isn't that weird? Like,
and
is this a game that has the highest total?
Yeah, and usually
and it's indoors. No one wants to go to it.
It is odd right now. We'll see how the week turns up. But even Jared Goff, he is 6,400, and nobody really in on him either.
Like you can be a value hunter all you want, and like we've already pointed out 4 or 5 guys that seem like absolute must plays. Like especially starting with Kupp, Rashee Rice looks like he's a good price. Put him with Yoshivas, and this is what I did when I went through. It's funny because when you think about the optimal and think about what I did, just like, hey, that's a value, that's a value. They're like the same lineup.
Yeah,
it has all these guys in it. In terms of projected ownership at receiver, it's like Rice, Kupp, Debo, Yoshivas, or Yeshmash, Garrett Wilson, Malik Neighbors, Deontay Johnson, for whatever reason, the system is popping up. There's no chance in hell 13% of people are playing Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing early, but I don't see it either.
So that's kind of it at receiver. Wendell, do you think he gets any love? Because he had all the red zone targets?
I think a little bit, but again, will people actually stack it up or anything like that? Or are they just going to play him?
Would you want to stack it up?
I would.
Like he feels like a bring back in a Jaden Daniels stack. or or just do a single like Jaden Daniels on one side, Wendell on the other.
I just think it's interesting. It's another prime example of the week one overreaction. So Baker Mayfield smashed these guys in week one. Why is he so special? It's Baker Mayfield. Everyone loved Danny Jones. He was like almost 10% owned or something.
Oh.
In week one. We were playing him with neighbors. We're playing him with Theo Johnson. I seen some of the guys in high stakes had neighbors, Theo Johnson, and Danny Jones stacks. So it's
they can't afford to play high stakes anymore because they lost all their money.
some of them that played it still had success. So my point would be that's a prime example as well. Is it going to work? I don't know. I'm just saying it was, if you're on that topic, why wouldn't that work? And they're going up against the same defense that Baker Mayfield just put it on top of. And we like neighbors still. So it's just another example. And maybe you go back to the well on Terry McLaurin. He burned everybody last week.
He was one step away from catching an 80-yard touchdown.
And then what? And then this week he's too cheap against this, and we put him in neighbors as the secondary stack, and blah blah blah. Exactly, all this stuff that people don't do anymore because they just move on to the next week and say, I got to play all the guys that did good last week. It's always 1 week sample sizes.
Tight ends, very briefly, the injury report is Jake Ferguson. I don't think he's trying to play. I don't think he's gonna play. And Njoku is out 2 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. And then Sunday Night Football, in case you're wondering, Dalton Schultz hasn't practiced yet this week. So the Sarge might be on the sidelines here. It'll be that guy, Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
First touchdown, that guy.
we got there before.
He did. He did. Yeah. Was it Quintanero?
It's like a mixture of both. It's you got to look him up and figure out his draft and all this other stuff about him and his 40 and all these things. But he definitely got there for us before.
Quintanero. First TD, Tegan Quitoriano. That guy.
Yeah.
Don't play him. But first touchdown, maybe. Maybe? We're doing Sunday Night Football. I'll be back.
That's how you get the action on him, though. If you want to play it, that's probably the better place to do it. Get on a touchdown.
Just very briefly, at tight end, it doesn't seem like one is sticking out above another. It's a pretty flat across the board in terms of ownership. In terms of points per dollar, Theo Johnson is the guy right now. Luke Schoonmaker, assuming that you're going to have Jake Ferguson out. I like Colby Parkinson at 3,100. I think that's like a legitimate play. Yeah, the guy doesn't block and only runs routes.
That's an example. We'll get to that, and I'm sure others will too as it's Friday now as the weekend goes on. But Akins is $100 less and Njoku out. And for $100 more, Parkinson. But if you're already playing Cup and Parkinson makes sense, then why aren't you getting in on the game stack with the quarterback and then running it back and all that stuff? So I think that's kind of a different setup that you could do here. And Parkinson's super cheap. Might as well put him into the stack.
Laporta, 4% ownership. He sucks now, remember.
Yeah, he's not good.
Yeah, he didn't have 3 touchdowns week 1, so he's awful.
Same Dalton Kincaid. No need for him last night with Cook with 3 touchdowns. But that's 2 bad games, but he sucks. He's horrible.
But I would say that the Bills' offense, when they first came out, like he was the focal point of what they were trying to do on like the first 2 drives.
100%. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying now what people are going to say is he's been so bad 2 weeks in a row. Just off topic, but notable from last night. It's what you said. They were after him. Then you don't really need him when you get 3 touchdowns from Cook and the rest of the team goes off. So it's just overreaction stuff that we can hit on all day. But yeah, I think Parkinson, putting him into some of those stacks would be an interesting way to go.
There are 2 tight ends on this slate who appear above 6.5% of the appear in the optimal lineups over 6% of the time. One of them appears over 10%. The other one appears 9.4%. Do you know who those 2 tight ends are?
Trey McBride one?
No, actually, not even in the top 10. Oh no, he's number 5. Sorry. He appears in 6.5% of optimal lineups.
Does Kelsey pop up there?
Kelsey's number 1.
Yep.
At 10.5, likely at 4,800 is number 2. Is this the...
Yeah, that's...
Well, I'm interested in likely. Is this the, oh my God, he's actually this guy, and we're going to think of him like 4,800, what a laugh. This is going to be 6,200 starting next week. Or is it 1 catch for 4 yards?
And is it Mark Andrews for $200 more, the actual guy that ends up coming in? Likely's good. I'm a huge Ravens fan. I think he's awesome. Always love this. I love that they're going to more 12 personnel. We're getting him involved, all these things. But, it's likely an overreaction. We'll have to wait and see on how he does in week 2. I mean, the guy's going to be good this season. It just, will he do what he did in game 1? The interesting part, though, Pat, is it doesn't seem anybody thinks he's going to do that. So you can really make your choice on just if you want to play him or not, and you land there at 4,800, it's fine to roll him because he's not getting an overreaction. He's not getting like, oh man, he's the guy. Let me play him at 15, 20%. It's not happening. He's not getting there.
He has the best leverage score of the week at 4.5%. That would be optimal rate minus ownership percentage. It becomes very much clearer once you get the after Saturday night, early Sunday morning ownership projections versus the Friday morning ones once you have all of the information. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Laporte is very high up there. Kittle is up there. Otton. Like everyone from this Detroit and Tampa game rates out awesomely. No one playing any of them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and that's one spot that you can get to for sure. There's lots of guys that you could fit in, and the only guy I saw like even getting a little bit of ownership was Godwin. That's really it.
Yeah, because he was like the relative cheap guy. Gibbs too.
Gibbs Godwin. Yep. I think that's a popular secondary stack just of note. I think Rice and Yoshivas is another one that you're going to see those two get popped in. Is like, if I just need a piece of that game, let me just pop those two in there.
A few years back, the irons were the best part of my golf game. But after a swing change about 2.5 years ago, my driver's an absolute weapon at this point, but all of a sudden I couldn't hit my long irons, and even some of my short irons just were not going on the same trajectory that I always wanted them to, or at least that they used to do. So when I heard how the new PXG Black Ops irons can dramatically improve my game, of course I had to give them a try. Anything to improve my golf game. So I called up PXG and I got my current irons and I took the PXG Irons Challenge and it has been amazing. The consistency off the club face is unparalleled to any club that I have ever used. Best thing about these irons is because I feel so comfortable that I'm gonna hit the sweet spot on them, I can control the club face, the high, the low, the cut, the draw, no problem. And the new PXG Black Ops irons are the game improvement missile launchers that are going to give you explosive distance, and it's going to feel softer than a baby bunny. The new Black Ops irons are incredibly easy to hit and maximize performance and fun, because getting better is fun. Oh, and they're only $149.99 a stick. That's a great price for a great golf iron. Take the PXG Irons Challenge. It's a ton of fun, and if PXG's new Black Ops irons don't outperform your current irons by delivering either more distance or tighter dispersion, that means better accuracy, during your fitting, you'll get a $100 MasterCard rewards card. Hurry! This offer ends October 7th. Book your fitting today at pxg.com. That's pxg.com. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Supercharger, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
Let's move to DraftKings lineups then. Try to build some of this stuff out. I'm using Run the Sims for the optimal, so I plugged theirs in to my screen right now. The quarterback, Jaden Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
The running backs, Kyron Williams and Jordan Mason at 6,800 and 5,200. Rashee Rice, Cooper Kupp, and George Pickens at $5,800. Theo Johnson at $2,600 as the tight end. Deebo Samuel Senor at $6,800. And then Cardinals D. So this lineup features two cases of a receiver and a running back from the same team. And the Cardinals defense, who's going up against one of those quarter or running back wide receiver combos. That's just what the optimal spit out for me.
Yeah, I see it. So now what do people actually do is the question. So I think one thing for sure, do you think people are going to get high on Indianapolis defense this week?
I would guess, but
That's what we kind of talk about all the time.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I don't know if Deebo will actually end up in it, because I think again, this is the silly part of it, the if this, then that scenario. But if CMC's out, I don't know if you have a better feel for it right now. I really don't. Then I just think people just go Mason and they don't go Deebo. They still just run one guy.
Would you run Ayuk?
I'm just saying I don't think for this optimal lineup, I'm just trying to see what I actually think people will do. I don't think people will play Pickens either.
Okay, so let's take Pickens out.
Right? I think we keep Rashee Rice, we keep Cooper Kupp, and then we get Yoshivas in there.
Get rid of Deebo?
Yeah, get rid of Deebo and get rid of Who else was in there? Debo and Pickens. Yeah, take him out as well.
All right, so I'll swap Pickens for Yoshevas. So we have a flex and a D to go to now. You said Colts D?
I think Colts D you could put in.
And then you have $7,800 for a flex. I doubt it's going. You know what? You just play Jonathan Taylor with him.
So who was the tight end you left Theo in?
I left Theo, and you don't have to. Like we could play. Who was another chalk guy that we mentioned from a little bit lower? Garrett Wilson was getting a. Do we just keep doubling up? Go Cup with Williams, have Mason in there, but just throw in, I don't know, Pacheco instead.
I was just thinking like a cash lineup, what people are doing, and I was looking like Akins is probably going to get thrown in there.
You think he's? Do you think enough people even know who that is?
100%. Well, it doesn't really matter either because optimizers do. And here's the lineup.
Brees
I found
Hall.
the chalk.
And
It's
then
Brees Hall.
It's Brees Hall.
That is the chalk. It projects the best of anything I had from previous testing, and so right now there's your cash lineup to start the week. Right? If you were playing cash, that's pretty much what people are rolling out, and it would be fine. I think you can play those two Rams the way they just rack it up. That you don't need to have somebody else in there. But I'm just saying, obviously, going back to what your point was earlier and just looking at it, how much is Stafford is 6,000. So you'd actually have $200 more. And then I don't know if you could get like a Wilson or a Dortch or something. How much are they?
Wilson's cheaper.
Yeah, 43, 42. So you could get there if you wanted to. But yeah, just an early look. Again, we can just build from here, but now you know what it is. I've got this at around 138 points with all the chalk.
Someone mentioned to me that that doesn't score enough points, Tambo. You need to score 300 to win a millionaire maker.
Oh, I saw the comments. Yeah, I always check them out just because. But it's like the funniest thing ever. We know these are median projections. These guys are capable of scoring 30 apiece, but they project for some cases 16 or
you
18 or whatever it is. Yes, they can score 30 though.
One of my favorite things about Run the Sims is like, I mean, optimizers in general is just changing it to just boom rate. Like, set it to 95th percentile outcome for each of the players because weird players have different distributions in that way based on their ADOT and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like Alec Pierce would be a perfect example last week. He could score 0 points this week. He could score 30 in any given week based on the types. It's the old Ted Ginn move.
Yeah, we have ceiling projections at Ship It Nation. Like this same lineup that we're on right now is 194. If those commenters want the exact here, the 138 is 194 if we flip it to ceiling. So it's really all how you want to look at it, but all we're saying is we're just using it for numbers base. And what we're really trying to do is teach you. It's not about these picks that we're making and how we're built. Like we're learning process. But the main thing is if you're hand building on the toilet, you're probably building a lineup that you think is 250, but it's probably actually 118 versus our 138. And when we flip yours to ceiling, it's 155 or 165. And you actually thought it was 250 sitting there. I know what's up. I can do it. It's, that's really the difference of it. We're just trying to compare up against that because you don't really have to go as far off the board as you probably think.
Let's talk defenses because we kind of skipped over that.
So Arizona, you talked about.
Arizona, I think Arizona is going to be popular. Like if you're going to go dumpster diving this week, you have the opportunity to take the Raiders at 25, the Vikings at 24, the Saints at 24, or the Panthers at 23. And then you just have the Cardinals at 23 sitting there going up against a team which doesn't have 4 of its starting offensive linemen. That's probably the move. If they're going to end up being popular, I think I would try to find a different spot.
The Chargers, you mean?
The Chargers, the Panthers would probably end up being the move.
Yeah, like the Chargers are 3,400.
The Chargers, if you can get to them, yes.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I got really bad vibes. I started the week really liking the Chargers, and I just got bad vibes around them. I think they might lose.
Well, no, there's no way.
You see, that's the whole thing.
Everyone says it's already a survivor conversation right now,
it's
too.
It's the Chargers.
Yeah, I know.
Don't forget, they'll go full Chargers on you.
It all has to depend on how it plays out. But with what is it like? I think Bosa's on the injury report right now and some other stuff. But again, if they're back, that's not just a one thing last week. I don't think they just were very bad all around. But just to note, the reason I like that, what I was going to say is that I think to me, Pat, this would be a prime example of what we always talk about. So Indy D is going to be popular just because it's going up against a backup quarterback. Yet it's like, what are the opportunities really going to look like versus the Chargers for $100 more? By the way, everybody loved the Chargers last week at 2,900. They went up 500. They get a great spot, and they're $100 more than Indy.
Packers D at 26.
They're in the mix.
Phony Tony will give you the ball.
Although he's really good.
He is really good, but he will make
it's
sort of like with Tua. Like Tua's going to make these really bad plays, but he doesn't have the upside and like the great huge strike potential of Anthony Richardson. Anthony will give you the ball. He'll fumble, he'll throw you a pick, but he'll also throw it 70 yards over your head at the same time. So it's like, ooh.
We were doing the show last week on Sunday, and we talked about some optimal rates, and same Run the Sims has this. So it's a prime example. Like when somebody's optimal versus the leverage, Justin does a great tweet every week where he posts it out with the chart.
I'll have that in the newsletter.
So it's an amazing chart. Like he posts that out and you could see it, but I was explaining it in golf terms of like the Scotty Scheffler of golf, even though he shows up as 30% optimal and he's 35 ownership, everyone's like, oh, negative leverage, can't play him. I'm like, yeah, but he's 30% optimal. It's different.
Yeah.
Like Tyreek was last week, or even like as a value version of that Yoshivas last week. It just, you could make him work with any lineup. Somebody went and ran with it and said, Anthony Richardson is the Sahith Theegala of the NFL. And it's just boom, like, man,
it is. Like you almost have to dedicate. It was like when I first started playing DraftKings, I would dedicate like, I don't know, I'd be playing 10 or 20 lineups a week. That meant 4 or 5 of my lineups were Cam Newton lineups.
Yeah. Say Cam Newton, Jameis Winston.
Yeah. There's a couple guys that like they're going to be the optimal quarterback 5 out of 17 weeks this year. And the weeks that they're not, it's going to be bad.
We have higher expectations for Phony Tony, I think, but I'm just saying
to be the optimal quarterback in 5 of 17 weeks. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You think it's more than that?
No. I'm saying that's versus like the Cam. Everyone watching would say, oh, he's way better than that, or I think he's better.
It has nothing to do with
it's
how
not
good
about
they are.
that exactly.
Like Jaden Daniels is going to be the optimal quarterback like 3 weeks this year.
Yeah. Yep.
You just have to pick the right week.
That's why you just mix those guys into your pool and figure it out. I think you nailed it. I do like the Green Bay D because of that 2,600. One thing I will say, because I just shit on you last week for it, and I always just say it, but like defense against a player, especially in cash, if you just had to get there, like if you end up having Arizona defense, as you saw originally, against someone like Kupp getting 21 targets, that has no negative correlation really overall to me, because Arizona can obviously still score a touchdown. They can get a pick six, they can get a pick six, scoop and score. They can get, a couple sacks, whatever. At 2,300, they don't have to do much. And at 7,600, Cooper Kupp doesn't have to do much. That's just PPR setting it up. I think that would be okay.
Additionally, if you had played the showdown lineups, I assume that Bills D and A-Chain were in the optimal, along with Jonnu Smith and James Cook.
Yeah, I think that was for the exact lineup. Shout out to Jason, good dude, JSF, outright unique shipper last night for $1 million straight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, huge. Amazing. Love to see that. Good guy, and also just love to see that it's possible, right? Everyone always thinks, oh, it's going to be this, oh, it's going to be that. We avoid those chops for a reason, and we want to get in on the full milli, so good for him.
Because the Steelers, although I'm not seeing a ton of Steelers like projected ownership yet, but defense projected ownership is stuff. Do you think people will go to the Steelers?
No. Not right now, anyway.
There are like these expensive defenses seem to be completely unowned. So the Chargers, the Colts, the Bucks for some reason, the Lions at 2,900 are garnering some interest. Same as the Broncos.
So let me see what I got. I'm with you on the first two you mentioned.
Dallas, the Jets, Niners, and Steelers are all 4 of the top 5 price defenses. I could see this being a week where I just play one of those guys.
You can get to them pretty easily, too, because I was going to say the other thing with the overreaction week of week 2 is there's an option for everybody. Like, no matter what, Worthy is not going to be as popular as Rashee Rice. So any Rashee Rice lineup can pop down to Worthy, pay up. I'm just saying if you want to get there, I'm not saying it's the move, but if you wanted to get there, you can do it any way you want.
Like, I know the Jets D got run all over, but that's because there was a threat of a pass from the 49ers. It's Will Levis against what might be the best pass defense in football. It's Derek Carr has one good game against the worst team in the league, and now he's playing the Cowboys defense.
Yeah.
In Dallas.
I think there's a range being a little bit squeezed right now, too. I know we spend a little bit more time on defense than others, but people usually like that. But like Jacksonville versus Cleveland, Washington versus Danny Dimes, Seattle against New England. Like there's 3 defenses in there that I think at 3K to 31.
Giants D.
Where you're not going up, you're not going down. Yeah.
I think that instead of playing, if you want to play Packers D, I think that makes sense, but I could see them getting a little bit out of control. Same as the Broncos. The Patriots you can go with at 28. If I was going to go to that next tier, like beyond like the absolute scrubs that we talked about, like the Arizona, Carolina level, in that upper $2,000, no one's playing the Titans. Maybe the Titans D is legit, and that's why Chicago looks so bad.
I like the Giants call you had better there. I actually would also like Denver better there as well too.
I just don't know like what Denver does well. They have a corner who can lock down a top receiver. Fantastic news. What happens then? It's one of the reasons I don't love Pickens this week.
I think Giants would be good just because you also can get some built-in leverage with what Jaden Daniels is going to be owned at.
Okay. Well, that's defense. Let's build some stacks.
Build some stacks. Where are we starting at, Pat?
Dallas. I love Dallas this week.
Okay.
Dallas onslaught.
Let's see what we got here. Is that the game you were talking about earlier that you liked?
No, I like the Lions and Bucks
Oh, okay,
game, but
yeah,
just when I looked at this one, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to go about it. And I don't like. Do you think it's Kamara as the Saint? Like, do I even need a Saint? Because I think they get shellacked here.
You definitely don't need a Saint.
Like
but
Shaheed,
I think
Shaheed would be the most logical one because he can get it all with one play, and he's only $4,600. He's a bunch of savings. But you go CD.
I'll put a little Luke in there too.
I'm not going with Luke.
I think you need to. You're spending almost $7,000 on a quarterback and almost $9,000 on a wide receiver.
All right. Well, I was going to put Cooks in there at 56 as well. I saved money with Shaheed at 46. Schoon.
Oh, okay, Cooks. Yeah, if you want to just use them all up, I don't hate it. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just onslaught Dallas. So I have Dak with Lamb, Cooks, and Schoonmaker, and then Shaheed as the other guy at 46.
And now this is where the challenge comes in today, because how do we do this? Like every lineup, you just plug Jordan Mason
Yeah.
into and assume, and then roll from there.
Yeah,
Because,
and then if McCaffrey goes, then you got to rebuild.
yeah.
So Mason, who was the D? Let's just throw in. You said Giants.
I think if you're looking for leverage, like you don't really need this, but I'd be fine with it. And then you can get to Kieran Williams and 6,700. You can get to
Rasheed Rice. Or
is
he-
that what it is?
Or is he 68?
If it is him, that's pretty crazy. He is 67. There you go.
Yeah, Kyron Williams.
A product of not going too far off the board when you already are off the board. Like what Dallas is off the board.
That's why
but
I
fine.
don't mind plugging the chalk into this lineup because this is just not a lineup anyone's gonna.
Yeah, not only that, even if they were going to this, they're not probably going all the way and stacking 3 guys with them, but he can definitely spread it out. All these guys can get there. I like a lineup like this. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You don't have Cup in here, but you do have Kieran Williams. You don't have Jaden Daniels, but you have the defense against him. You got Jordan Mason, who if CMC's out as top play of the week, and then you got Rashee Rice, who's also the most popular wide receiver right now, but you can get away with it and you get a piece of that game because you've got the Dallas stack overstacked.
You can throw Cup in, then you have $5,900 for a running back, which would leave you at it's the best
Wasn't there
of
someone
these
you
guys.
liked earlier?
Pollard, Ford is there, and then I mean, hell, if Kenneth Walker is out, you just play Charbonnet.
Pollard Ford sounds like a politician.
Pollard Ford.
Or Ford Pollard.
Now,
One of those.
Pollard Ford sounds like someone representing the 7th District of North Carolina.
Yeah, there you go. So
Hi, I'm Pollard Ford, and I endorse this.
that's what
message.
I was thinking of. That's exactly what I thought when you first said it. So I couldn't quite get it. I was trying to get to trying to see if I could get to the defense there, Seattle.
Do you like
And then Drake.
Dobbins or Gus or any of those guys in that game? Like Chuba Hubbard rebound week?
I actually like if I was going that game, it would probably be the Chargers passing stack. Like go back to the well on Palmer.
Palmer might not play.
Yeah, so then be Ladd. And then you also can play Hurst and then Herbert. 3 guys, super cheap. It's just you'd be able to fill in all you. You want to build it?
No,
Really?
no. I have other losers. As Feinberg would say from the golf show, I have my own losers that I lose money with. I don't need your losers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just think you can do anything. Like, yeah, you have over 6,000 a spot left. They are 5,800, 4,900, and 3K. The price of a stack and what you need it to go off for, that's, huge right there for the savings.
Are you with me that Dallas goes mental in this game?
Maybe not mental, but I do like them this week. Yeah, I liked Dak already. He's popping for me big time. So it's just I was looking at ways to use him. Obviously, we need the Jake Ferguson news, but at least Dak, Lamb. I don't know if you need to run it back, but I think Olave was popping up for me a little bit too. Again, if we already have these cheap, if we get Schoonmaker in there, that's why I was saying I might need the savings because I kind of like Olave more than Shaheed on the way back. But
It's not even, I mean, I like Olave objectively more than Shaheed as well, but to make this lineup work, like, do I like Olave more than Rashee Rice? I don't.
Mm-hmm. So that's where you got to decide.
And as mentioned with Shaheed, it's 2 bombs, and he's like a top 5 receiver for the week.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about getting 2 bombs again, though, right? What do you
Sure,
get last
but
week? 1 bomb?
I'm playing to win at the same time. Like, if he gets 0, like, whatever. If he doesn't get the bombs, I'm not going to win anyway.
He's got like 2 to 3 weeks a season. So if he does them if he does 2 of them back to back, that's kind of how it would shake out.
I mean, you say that, but he's more incorporated into this offense. Obviously, Clint Kubiak is A.T. Perry being back. I do want to see how that changes him rotating in and out this week. But I do think that he is their deep shot guy. They're allowing him to return punts, maybe kickoffs now as well, just getting him extra touches.
That's why we put him in. I'm
these
just
games.
saying it's not like it's not like we just are getting that. Like I think Olave is
No, but I'm
affordable and there's ways to get to him, so I prefer him.
I'm talking about trying to but do you prefer Rice or Olave?
In this game stack, I would prefer to play Olave.
But just objectively, who do you think is a better play?
Rice on paper.
So if we have the opportunity cost of that, who will we put into that Shaheed spot then? If we take Rice out, we put Olave in, and then we have that $4,600 saving that we had with Shaheed. Who takes his spot in that lineup? Is it Yoshivas?
Maybe, or
Who
somebody
I don't
else.
like, by the way. I don't like him.
Right, and maybe that's the case. But what I'm saying is when you're building out that lineup, that's literally the point. Everybody would have Rice there, and you say, I'm not going to play Chalk Rice. I'm going to play Olave, who not only is still good on paper, just not as good, but he fits the game stack that I'm actually building, and that would be a way to double leverage the field. You've already got Olave beating Rice, which causes for Dak to have to do things the other way, which makes that lineup vault up. So it's just a theory thing around building the lineup that we were building. If you're just comparing, we just go back to the projections, and obviously it's Rice over Olave.
But I'm just trying to think of how this game goes in my head and what I would want from certain types of players. I think that if I was playing, I feel like Olave's a better cash play and Shaheed's a better GPV play. Just because when he scores big, he's going to score way more.
Yeah, it's just, 20, 21, 21, 21, 20, 20, 26, 28. Like he can have huge, those are still fine plays that we're kind of wanting from Rice. And what are we doing with Rice? That's pretty much the score we want. So in this lineup, I want that to make it tick the other way. That's why.
Well, what I ended up doing, it was playing sort of the opposite of that lineup. I ended up playing the Ford and Cooper Kupp lineup instead of the Kyron Williams and Rashid Rice lineup. And I like that. I like that side better.
The
getting Cooper Kupp.
Oh, the 2v2 that you had there.
The 2v2 was those two. Like I took Rice out with Kyron Williams and put in Cooper Kupp and Jerome Ford.
Yeah, that's fine too. I think that's, again, I didn't edit it to go back and see, but if you moved it around, I'm sure there's other ways to get like a better running back in there than Ford and just move it around a little bit more still.
You'd probably have to go to you could go to Mike Evans or Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson, like one of those guys at receiver, and that would pump you back up into James Conner, basically, or Rashad White.
Yeah, that's if you have Kupp in there and James Conner, you kind of get a piece of that game.
Well, no, you wouldn't be able to have Cooper Kupp.
Oh, see, I was trying to move around on that, so that's why.
Let's see. What you would have to do in that spot then, in order to get up to James Conner, actually, I brought the lineup back up. You get rid of Giants D, and you get rid of Jerome Ford, and you go Cardinals D. I know it sucks because you have Cooper Kupp in there, but
not really. Like I said, at least that would be the one where it's whatever. It's 2,300.
You can't even get to him. You need $100 more.
Always the $100 button.
Always the $100. Use my token to boost it up. Extra $100.
I wish. I think that you should be able to do it and put money into the pool to buy $100.
It's like buying a half point on a spread.
Yeah, like you buy $100 for your. You can only buy 100. You can't pay like 100 per extra 100 you need.
You can get 100 more.
You can buy the $100 button that everyone's been looking for. You pay $100 into the
regardless
pool.
if it's a $5 contest or not.
Yeah, it's $100 and it adds to the prize pool.
I like it.
If you want the $100, you pay for it. I love that play, and
it should just be a bonus. You have to pay $100 for the extra $100. Your lineup is allowed to compete with everyone else's, but that side pool is just a pool of people who whatever last player that you put in for that extra $100.
If they're allowed to compete for the main prize, like they should have to pay for it. But I just think that's kind of the setup where I've always thought about something like that, but it's not the game. You can't do it.
So I guess with this, if this is the way that we wanted to go, so this doesn't work anymore.
I'm trying to get it back to what you had it at with who was the flex is the only thing I'm missing, 5,600.
5,600.
Well, I have Dak, Lamb, Shaheed, Kupp, Schoonmaker,
Cooks.
Ford. Oh, it was Cooks.
Yeah.
That's what it was. We overstacked it.
Yeah, so we overstacked this game. I mean, the very easy way out of this, because I don't like Schoonmaker anyway, would be just to go to Theo Johnson.
Or I was going to say you just go to Akins and get Ford out of there.
I don't even have Ford in right now.
From before when you did with the Kupp version?
Let's see. Theo?
I don't really like Theo outside of stacks, but that's just me.
I mean, he's just in there to punt off the...
I like cheap tight ends and stacks, but if people are going to play forward and you can just move to Akins, that's a little bit different. So I would be more comfortable.
Yeah, this is one that I have Connor and Mason in right now. And we could just get rid of Cooks. Is there anyone else in that mid? Man. We go back to Schoonmaker. And then take Cooks out as a part of that stack.
That's what I was originally looking for. So what's that one do? That's the one. And we like Dak this week, so we'll spend a little bit of time on this. But I think the setup, if we go back to even leaving, are you leaving Shaheed in there right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go this. We get Dak, CD, Schoonmaker, run it back with Shaheed, put in the chalk Mason and Cup. We'll leave defense out. What's the running back that we had there before? What's another guy you can
We had Ford, or you could go with Kyron Williams. Do you like Derrick Henry at all this week?
Yes.
You do. Let's throw Derrick Henry in there.
All right.
Let's throw in Derrick Henry. So we have some room to maneuver here if we can get back up to like a cheap-ish wide receiver. I like the 49ers D. We'll put them in with Jordan Mason in this spot. That gives us $3,900 for a wide receiver, which is Yoshivash.
Yeah.
And if you really wanted to get up one more, you could take Jets D. Sorry, Raven. You could actually, you know what? Just get rid of Niners D, go to Ravens D against the Raiders. Now you have Derrick Henry and Ravens D.
Yeah, at least that's better for correlation, I think, and it still projects about the same. But then you've got a little something in there if you're going off the board. If we took out Derrick Henry for a second, take out Yoshivas and Baltimore, or just say you go to Pacheco with Yoshivas, what does that leave us?
Pacheco with Yoshi.
3,500. You said we could pay up this week at D. There was a couple options
Yeah,
there. That's
you had to pay up.
Pittsburgh or it's Chargers. There you go.
I would prefer to take Pittsburgh.
And it projects better. Yeah, they do project better too, but I was just saying if you wanted to go to what we talked about earlier. But yeah, either of those are good, and you get the secondary stack. You still get a piece of that Kansas City. But this just shows too, I mean, we're higher on Dak for sure. But again, even in this lineup, Pat, not one player from Tampa Bay, Detroit.
Yeah, it's hard to get them in unless you, and that's why the ownerships are depressed on them, because unless you're actively stacking up that game, it's hard to get them in.
Let's try and build a Stafford Cup lineup.
That was next on my list.
So I like that.
LA Rams.
And I liked your call earlier. I really want to get to that. The Parkinson play.
That's the piece,
But
right?
do you need to run this back as the question? Like, did you see the stuff Marv Harrison Jr.? He's so slow now.
Yeah, he can't even run. This reminds me so much of the Jamar Chase can't catch narrative that went around for like a week until he just. Marvin Harrison's got to be the play as the bring back here, doesn't he?
Yeah, let's put him in. I'm putting
Marv Harry
6,900 too. Nice. Let's go, Marv Harrison. Put him in, and without going again, just already feel like we're in a pretty good place. Can you get like who's next up? Like who's those guys you talked about at running back? Like maybe you can get Pacheco.
You're asking Goldberg questions over here. Who's next?
Who's next? I had a Mark Henry reference the other day too. Actually, a good one here. You probably got him on the wall.
Were
we
you
talking
calling
about Derrick
yourself
Henry?
Sexual chocolate?
No, I didn't get that far with it, but I was talking about Derrick Henry, and I meant to say Derrick, and I said Mark. All right, where's that defense at that we were talking about earlier? The Giants.
See, I don't love the Giants here.
Okay,
They're fine. I think the Titans are going to be lower owned and might actually be able to rattle Aaron Rodgers here.
All right, let me see this then. So who's another D? We're not going to go Arizona. Let's just pay up a little bit of D, or let's look at.
How about Patriots at 28?
I'd rather just see where
George
we land.
Fant is out. They're underdogs in this game. I think they can stuff the run pretty well, force Geno to pass.
Didn't you like someone already though? Do you like Jacksonville?
No, I like the Browns, D.
Gosh, $200 short.
So we have Stafford, Marv, Cooper Kupp, and Parkinson. Do you want to throw in one of the cheap Arizona guys just because? Or do you want to throw
I kept it with Marv, but if you didn't go Marv, who would you go?
Like, do you want to go Marv Michael Wilson here? Or just throw both of them in because he's $4,300. It saves us a ton of money.
All right, let's do that. It's actually going to cost us a little
is it?
bit of money. But no, not truly.
Because you
but
had Yoshivas.
because I already had him in. But yeah, I was just trying to look to close it out with the Kansas City Cincy flip there. But that only left us 2,600 for a defense. Oh, Green Bay versus Indy.
Sure.
And then you don't get Yoshivas, you get Breece Hall.
Oh, yeah, I like that trade-off.
That's a nice lineup.
So who
yeah.
are the two running backs? It's
So
Hall.
you go Mason, Hall, Pacheco. So you still get, still no Tampa Bay, Detroit. We'll get there. But yeah, still none. But you get the 5-man game stack of Stafford, Kupp, Parkinson, Big Marv Harrison, Big Michael Wilson. And then you round it out with Green Bay against Indy D. And I think I covered it all. Yeah, that should be it.
So the other cheap options at receiver to look at, I think, I mentioned Wendell a little bit earlier.
Well, it's actually in the same game, so we can stay here because Kupp is there, but also Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson
Are both there as well.
4K and 3,300.
I see projections like Allen Lazard. I know a lot of people like Allen Lazard this week. Mike Williams is practicing in full and is going to be back.
I would have a feeling that he might be on the field more than Allen Lazard.
Yeah, might have to.
They might run the 3 wide receiver sets, but I don't think they're taking Garrett Wilson off the field.
Aaron Rodgers, someone's going to have to get him out of a coffin after last week. People declared him dead. So if you want to get after that, but I mean, like Garrett Wilson is 7,100, Breece Hall is 7. I mean, these guys are all popping up.
No, but I'm just looking at if there's cheap wide receivers that we can go to. And just when I just did points per dollar wise, obviously like Yoshivas is up there, Wendell Robinson is up there, but Lazard is up there as well. I just think that you're overpaying for a big game that was in prime time, and now the guy who might be actually doing his job is back. I just don't think it's a good play. Don't go chasing. But DeMarcus is 4,000. Shaheed is 46. Tyler Johnson is 33. All those right out as pretty good plays. Jalen McMillan is the other one. And like that, I think that might be the key piece to that Tampa-Detroit stack. But I like him better than Yoshivas anyway. I think he's a better player. I think that he's more involved in a better passing offense. And he's cheaper this week. And he absolutely crushed Yoshivas in week 1, and no one seems to care.
Yeah, I don't hate him as a play. I'm just thinking about like how you can use it even in the lineup we just had, because we had Mike Wilson in there. Would you rather overstack Stafford and add another cheap piece in or would you swap and use one of those cheap guys to get yourself up to a McBride, for example, and have him as the run back, and then you still have $5,000?
Well, I don't think that you need to. So let's go with who did I just say? McMillan and wife. So let's do that. Where's McMillan? McMuffin. We didn't get a super bad thumb this week. We got a Moneyball one.
Okay.
Just me as Brad Pitt with a huge lipper. And unfortunately, you got to be Jonah Hill in this one.
That's fine. I think that makes more sense.
So McMillan, we throw in. Now we got a piece of that Tampa and Detroit game that we talked about at $3,600. Now we have $700 left. So you can upgrade your D if you wanted to. Because I like the other spots that we have. You could get up to...
This one projects well.
You could get up to Jonathan Taylor if you really wanted to.
What do you think about this lineup?
Hit me.
Stafford, Mason Hall stays the same. You get to the overstack in a little bit different way because you keep your guy McMillan, who you wanted to plug in at 3,600. You go Kupp, Johnson, and then it rounds out with Kieran Williams in the flex, Green Bay defense, who we had against Indy, and it lands you on Travis Kelce with what we talked about earlier.
I think I want to say, I think if you're going to win with this.
That projected 4 points off our original optimal.
I think if you're going to win with this, you want to have the leverage of Marvin Harrison in this. Because no one's going to play him. Obviously, he can get behind the defense. He was standing there all by himself against Buffalo. Just didn't no one throw it to him.
They said he's only 16 miles per hour now.
Yeah, it sucks.
He can't speed.
Well, maybe he saw what happened to Tyreek Hill and didn't want any of that smoke. So now he goes the speed limit.
Man,
Even
you
on
can
the
do
field.
whatever you want in this lineup. Who was that $3,800 D you liked? Oh, wow. This is interesting here. This one's nice. Okay, Pat. This is nice. Keep Stafford, Mason, Breece Hall. Keep
Jets D.
McMillan, Jets D, and you get Tyler Johnson, Marv Harrison, Travis Kelce, and Cooper Kupp. That's pieces of pretty much everywhere on the slate that we were looking.
Can I
Except Dallas now.
Do I have enough money for it? I do.
What is it?
Let me one-up you on this one.
We'll see if it does.
Stafford, Mason Hall. I mean, it's not because Marvin Harrison's going to be in this.
That's a church. Stafford, Mason Hall.
That's a law firm. Or maybe an accounting firm.
More like an accounting
Sounds
firm.
like an accounting firm.
Yeah.
Maybe a wealth management fund. I don't know. Stafford, Mason Hall, Marv, Kupp, McMillan,
Okay.
Parkinson, James Conner, Jets D.
Okay. That's just as good. I like that one too. This is the thing about why you gotta want to compare these things. You'll be able to find alternatives, but let's go back to Parkinson. Where's he at here? And then Kupp, yeah. Is Kupp 76? Yeah, he is. So that actually projects 1 point less than what we just had, but I like it better. You get Connor rolling on the ground, Marv on the other side. You're just using up your tight end position, not the other cheap guy. You get McMillan, who's not Yoshi. I mean, you're leaving a couple games out here, but I think that's fine. Like, we don't have any Cincy, Kansas City.
If you really wanted to, let's say you really like Shaheed, which I do, but you could spend the $1,000 from McMillan to get to Shaheed, and that would drop you to 28 for defense. You could have Broncos D, you could have Titans D.
You just go back to the Giants. We're
Yeah.
not playing Jaden Daniels, like you said.
You could almost get up to Brian Thomas if you wanted to, although it's not a great matchup against the Browns. But like Josh Downs coming back, McConkey's at 49. Like you could get up to those guys if you wanted to.
What happens if you want to just play Rice, who we talked about earlier?
Yeah, you take Connor out, go to Rice.
Does that leave you Shaheed money? 4,400?
No, I don't think so.
No. Brock Bowers, double tight end?
No, thanks. I like this one. It's one of my favorite ones so far.
Yeah.
Would you do the Kyler side or no?
Would I do the Kylers?
Like in that, what we did, you
Yeah,
go like Cup and Kyron.
I think one thing about it is if you are playing Marv, you got to kind of like Kyler, right? Because typically it's going to be set up that way. So if he has a big game, it probably does help Kyler. Plus, what if it is just Kyler, Marv, Cup?
Wilson.
Oh, I'm saying like if you go, you don't really need a double stack Kyler. Like if you think Marv Harrison's going to have a 2-touchdown game.
I was going to throw in Michael Wilson because he's cheap, and I like him better than Dortch.
I took them both out. I'm saying let's try and build it without them. Let's just build Kyler, Marv Harrison, Cooper Cup. That's pretty obvious on paper. I'm plugging Rashee Rice in just to see if we can get to it since we're already pretty different there. Who was the cheap tight end that we said we could use otherwise?
It was actually Colby Parkinson.
Other than him, I'm saying.
You said Akins.
Yeah, he's another one. I thought there was someone else you liked there.
At cheap tight end?
Theo Johnson, I guess.
I mean, Theo Johnson, like if you absolutely need to punt off the position, would be the guy. You seem to like Hayden Hurst. I don't.
I wouldn't like him outside of any stack. I'm saying that's part of the making a stack work.
I think that there's a case you could make for Dulcich, only because we just talked about Reynolds might not play, that Devon guy might not play, whatever the hell that guy's name is.
Vale, whatever.
Yeah, Devon Vale. So you just have Cortland Sutton and tight ends.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, that's the situation with tight end all the time. That's why oftentimes I try and pay up if I can on a slate like this, because if you get a Kelsey, whether it's Mark Andrews or Likely, you get Laporta, something like that. We talked about McBride. All those guys I think could be possible. But it might be, is there another, we didn't talk enough about this, but if we didn't go Breece Hall, who's another cheap running back that was sort of popping up in ownership that would make sense?
I know that you don't want to double stack this one, but wouldn't this be the spot to use Colby Parkinson since we're attached to this game anyway?
Yeah, just like
I get that you don't want to overstack it, but at least that frees us up the money to do whatever else we want.
That's what I was trying to see, is if we didn't overstack. But let me just put in James Conner then.
We don't need to put James Conner to this, because we're trying to really filter everything through the passing game here. If we're going to go with Kyler and Marv and really say that's what the case is going to be. So can we go?
You can get away with it. Yeah, like Parkinson and him could just get enough carries. I'm just saying I don't want to.
Cheap running backs to look at. I think you have to kind of pick your poison with.
Who is the cheap running back, though? Is it Ford that people are playing?
Ford is the one that people are playing.
And then 5,300.
But he's not even that cheap. He's $5,900.
Yeah. He got there late last week. I know he got the very late touchdown.
Zach Moss is somewhat interesting, although he popped up on the injury report. He's a full participant, so he's going to be good to go against the Chiefs. He played more than I thought that he was going to play. You could try to get sneaky with Javonte versus McLaughlin again. It was all McLaughlin. Not that he did anything, but it was more him than it was Javonte Williams. I know, because I played Javonte Williams like an absolute goober.
That's why it's tough.
Gus at 52, like if you think they're going to be up, he was taking early down work. Dobbins looked better than he did. But everyone's going to try to, not everyone's going to try to play Dobbins, but Dobbins is also another cheap play that you could go to. The answer is just Jordan Mason, man.
We got him in there, yeah.
It's 100% Jordan Mason if McCaffrey doesn't go. Should we try to find a Viking to put back with him? Because it doesn't seem like Addison's going to play. Brandon Powell, I think, does become somewhat intriguing. Yes, everyone's going to go to Naylor, but he's still dealing with this ankle injury. And 2 wide receiver sets last week after Addison left. It was Powell who was on the field with Justin Jefferson. He's $3,300.
What did he do?
Nothing.
Yeah. I just...
0 targets. But they were by the time he got into these 2 wide receiver sets, like the Vikings didn't pass in the second half. Like Jefferson was well on his way to crushing last week, and they were like, oh yeah, we're just up by 28 now. Who cares?
That's pretty much what it came down to. I was just trying to see if I could finish that one out to... I didn't hate your call of being able to put like Cooper, Kupp, and Parkinson with Harrison and Murray, and it's just saying like Kupp and Parkinson don't mean that Stafford gets there. It's they just rack up all those points. And realistically, you could almost add that money onto Cooper Kupp and call him that price and just call that your combo pack. Like he literally could have been closer to that price than 7,600, and it's not like you wouldn't have thought about it. So I get that.
Look, if Kupp goes off in this game and he's probably not going to have 21 targets again. Let's say he has 15 targets, he has 11 catches, a touchdown, and 140 yards. All Parkinson really needs to do is like 4 for 40 and hopefully sneaks into the end zone.
Yeah.
Then Stafford's not getting there. Cooper Kupp got there, and Parkinson all got there for you.
That's what I was trying to see. How much is Gibbs? 6,600.
That's what I just built out. Gibbs with I put in Gibbs at 66.
Did you like the Cleveland defense or the Indy defense?
I like the Cleveland defense better, but I would like to get up to Steelers D. Then we have 3,800 for Yoshivas if you want him, or you just put in McMillan to go with Gibbs.
I got it to a pretty good projection with Murray, Harrison. You put the two guys in, Kupp and Parkinson. You get the secondary stack of Pacheco with Yoshivas. Then you get Gibbs to get a piece of that game. Mason, just who he is, and you end up landing on Indianapolis defense, who don't love against the backup, but you could play Cleveland, you could play whoever you wanted there just to show it, though.
Wait, who do we have different here? I have Kyler, Mason, Gibbs, Marv, Rice, Kupp, Parkinson, Yoshivas, and Steelers D. That's all my money.
Yeah, I just went Pacheco instead. I can change that to Rice.
Oh, okay.
I'm good, but it's just an example. Like that's just what popped up on my end. I think you're fine the way you are. I think it's probably better, actually. Let me go pull that one now because I'm just going to switch to Rice. Why is it not popping up? Rice. And then you had 3,500 left for the defense?
Yes.
And we like Pittsburgh.
What about Najee as a cheap play?
I don't know. I thought about it, but
he's 55. Warren's dealing with a hamstring thing. And Najee was pretty effective last week against Atlanta. Like he didn't get there, but the usage was there for him.
Yeah, I don't know if I like Pittsburgh D as much as I like the Chargers for $100 less.
I mean, I like a better defense sometimes. With all things being equal and around the same price, you have the one guy. If Bosa doesn't go, you still have the one guy on the Steelers who almost scored like 25 fantasy points by himself last week.
Mm-hmm.
And going against Bo Nix and a bad O-line is like a good recipe. All they need to do, the problem is the Steelers. If they can somehow find a way to get up 10-0 in that game, their defense is going to score fucking 30 points.
That's what I wondered.
Like if they can force Denver to actually have to pass, it's going to be curtains for them.
Do you see the guy that does the recaps on X? I am Thorb.
Yeah, Thorb.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Really, really fun stuff. If you haven't checked him out, go follow him. But the throw picks, Bo Nix, must have had that with him his whole life. Like that's just insane. What did he actually do last game? That's what I was wondering. Like,
but Bo Nix,
your prime example, what you always talk about. Now that we could rehash it again, but it's like this is my thing. I'm between Pittsburgh and Chargers, just a defense. But I'm just saying when you're landing there and looking at it, if people are going to Indy against a backup quarterback who we don't necessarily think is going to make enough turnovers for us to get out of it. It's those guys are just $100 and $200 more. Is Bo Nix going to give the opportunities, or does it just rhyme with his name? And would we rather just have the Chargers in that spot for more lineups?
It's interesting only because Nix threw a ton last week. It's just he threw the ball like 1 yard down the field every single time. So he had a lot of passing attempts, completed a lot of passes for 0 yardage, but those aren't great opportunities.
42 attempts, yeah. And then you do got to factor that in of, like you said, yes, some of them are 1 yard check downs and things like that where it doesn't.
They're like step back bubble screens or 3-step drops, or they're like, panic mode. But just seeing JJ or TJ Watt in the backfield every single play last week is just imprinted in my mind. And how's that going to go for Bo Nix?
Yeah, I like that call too. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
And with the Chargers, like, I don't expect Bryce Young to light them up, but I think the Chargers are going to play these rock fight games. And those aren't great. I think if you have the money and it's a cash game and you can spend up at defense, I think they're good for like 10 points.
Right. Do you want to build some Patrick Mahomes lineups?
No, I want to build Tampa Detroit because that's what I came in going for.
I prefer that. Others out there are going to be wanting to build Patrick Mahomes lineups this week, so I'm with you. Let's build some Detroit, Tampa Bay.
I like the Detroit side. Okay, let me ask you this. Laporta, Amon-Ra, Goff, McMillan, and who? Rashad White, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Where do you...
you probably got to go Godwin, just because it's going to get very, very expensive quick. Let's try building it out and see where we land.
Well, I think Rashad White's cheaper than Godwin, isn't he? Or he's right around the same price?
It's more that it just depends on how you're doing it. But yeah, you already have Mason. Depends what you like and what you want there. You're not going Gibbs or Montgomery probably, let's say. So in this example, so you could go White for 6,300. You could go McMillan, who you like. Like even getting to Laporta, it's going to be possible though. Let's see this.
Porta, throw in what? Giants D.
You could definitely go
Jordan Mason.
You can go Arizona D and still decide if you want.
Listen, I'm already at wide receiver in the flex, and I have $5,700 left. I could go Shaheed, expensive guy. I could do two middle guys. Easy game.
That's what I'm trying to see here. It's just what you like.
Is there any decent wide receiver in this bottom part? Or do you go like super cheap?
This is why people aren't getting to these lineups, though. You can tell already.
Well, it's just because the chalk that everyone like, it's hard to get Rashee Rice and Cooper Kupp in this lineup. I can get Cooper Kupp in this lineup, no problem. Watch me.
$4,200 left, or what do you have?
38 for Yoshives. Like double pay down at wide receivers, like not super fun. But you go Goff, Rashad White, Jordan Mason.
Yep.
Amon-Ra, McMillan, Kupp, Laporta, Yoshives, Giants D. $0 remaining.
And 8 points off our original.
But if this is the game that goes off, which by the total is the most expected game to go off.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to explain. That's exactly it, though. That's the same thing as like when people are just building it, they don't know or they guess or they think. But this is only 8 points off the best projected lineup we could come up with. And it's a game stack of the game that could break the slate. And then now there's Buddy that's looking for his ceiling. There's where you find your ceiling when that game goes off and actually gets to the total.
The other way you could do this, take out Yoshives and Kupp, and you can go. Who do you like the best of those $6,000 running backs? Just out of curiosity, or 6,000 mid 6K play, because we have.
I would just play Kieran Williams again. The game theory of it all is you're not touching that game for Kupp. You're not touching that game for anything. You're just what are you doing? So that's how I would look at it.
And then it leaves you with exactly enough for Shaheed.
Exactly. There you go. And you got what you like too. So yeah, I actually have no problem with that. I think that's another way to get after it. It kind of makes sense just building it out. It's where you land. And I don't think there's like any crazy play you're missing out on.
Rice.
By that,
I'm missing out on all the Chiefs.
You're missing out on Kansas City and Cincinnati, but you're almost always leaving a game behind, right? That's what you got to notice, especially on these big 13, 14, 12, even the 12. Like you're always leaving something out, but your lineup's telling a story for the rest of it, and it still makes sense and has correlation built into it. So
let's flip it now. Baker.
5,900?
Baker at 59 with Evan. Do you want to go Evans or Godwin?
I want to take out White is what I want to do.
Yeah, we're not going to play White.
And
here.
I want to play Kieran Williams and Mason just to make it easy because we're still keeping the same concept.
All right, so you want to play.
How much is Evans?
Evans is 75, unfortunately.
And how much is Godwin?
Godwin's 6,000.
Ooh, let's try this for a second.
You could do no Amon-Ra, and you could go You could go Gibbs and Laporta, or Gibbs and Jamison Williams instead as the run back.
I would take out Laporta and get rid of Shaheed for a second and just get one of them.
I don't have it. You have Mason and Kyron Williams in?
All I have right now is Baker, McMillan, Mason, Williams, and Amon-Ra. I don't want to get rid of Amon-Ra because the other thing about Amon-Ra is he actually doesn't need
and he's great
to come along with it. He can get you 8 for 120 and 1, and that means nothing to his quarterback besides a few points. But for him, it means everything. So
we're at 4,300 right now.
Do we get? Can we do Kieran with Parkinson?
That's what I was just thinking.
And then that leaves, in this example, we still can go up or down, but this leaves us Garrett Wilson money.
Ooh.
With the Giants D, that's not bad.
What about Packers D? Throw them in instead.
Let's see that.
Frees up $100 more for a flex. Would be ETN against Cleveland.
I think I'm just going to switch to Godwin for a second to get some real money here because it looks like we landed in a dead zone. I think we can land in like a really good zone, and that's where you want to do these 2v2s and 3v3s and figure them out. So we left out a flex. So
there we go.
What do you got?
There it is. I built the lineup for you.
What do you got?
Ready?
Yeah.
Mayfield with Godwin and McMillan and wife. You have Amon-Ra as the run back. Jordan Mason, Kyron Williams as your running backs. Colby Parkinson is your punt away tight end. For some reason, I put Pats D in there. I meant to have Patriots D in there. Or Seahawks D, whatever one you want to use. And Justin Jefferson is your flex.
And you have 3,000 for D?
Yeah, I have 3,000. I just decided to use 2,800 if I wanted to. But now I have Jefferson with Jordan Mason, which we haven't even talked about yet. Of like, who is the guy to put with Jordan Mason if you're going to make that a skinny-ish snack?
Yeah.
Then you have Kyron by himself. You have Godwin, McMillan, Amon-Ra. There you go.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And then, yeah.
The other way to
still
do
projects well.
The other way to do this, I think, would be get rid of Kyron Williams and put Gibbs in. That's 66. And then you could get yourself up to Chiefs D if you wanted to. And use that as the piece of that game. Just say, hey, Chiefs D just picks off Joe Burrow twice, scores 2 touchdowns, and everyone sucks.
Another way to look at it for sure. Good call on that. I mean, you are missing out on Kupp, Kieran Williams.
Yeah, we got Colby Park
and Rice, but I was going to say you got Parkinson in there as something, just whatever. And you've got Kansas City against Cincinnati just as a way to say it's, if I'm not playing that game, may as well get a piece of that way.
You can put Kupp into this lineup, no problem. It's just, what would you say that is the opportunity? I know they're not exactly the same price, but in this lineup, we can actually afford to do it.
I think I have it.
Is the projection on Justin Jefferson higher than Cooper Kupp? I would probably say yes. Or at least it's 50-50.
Detroit. I would leave Gibbs for this. So all I was trying to do was see what I could get to here if I go back. I guess I would say the more we talked about it, the more I like this Kupp-Parkinson combo because it's, what is it, 10,700.
Yeah.
That's too much for Kupp. I get it. But you are getting two guys. If this was week 14 and all things were adjusted and we just came off a 21 target week and injuries to Nakua and other stuff, like if Kupp was 9,100, people would still be considering him. So it's like you're getting Parkinson for $1,600. If you want to think of it like that example, it's just like a little way to do it. We still have Jefferson in this lineup, mind you.
That's what I mean. You can take him down to Kupp, no problem. I can
also move him up to CeeDee Lamb in this lineup. But yeah,
you could also change Chiefs D to you can't quite get there to Cowboys D.
So what I was trying to look at is if I went with Pacheco
instead of who?
I was just leaving. I guess if instead of Gibbs for a second, I want a piece of this game. I was just trying to move some pieces around to see if we could cover all the angles, Pat, of like what we've sort of been looking at. Like we've got the Rams game covered. We've got the Tampa Bay Detroit we're piling up. We've got the Chalk Mason. We've got Pacheco with the defense. It leaves us 8,500, which is Jefferson, but you don't have a Detroit run back. So it's almost like if you go Amon-Ra.
Wait, you took out Amon-Ra?
I'm putting him back in now.
Okay.
This is the best lineup I could find, and I think I'm back to your Pittsburgh defense, and I'll give it to you. Yeah, so best one I could find you could play with it because you're good at figuring it out was Mayfield, Mason, Pacheco to get a piece of that Kansas City game.
Mason, Pacheco. So no Gibbs?
No Gibbs because you're going Amon-Ra with McMillan and Godwin.
Mm-hmm.
You keep your combo pack of the Cooper-Colby combo pack, the Triple C Cooper-Colby combo. Say that 3 times fast. Parkinson and Kupp, and it lands you on your Pittsburgh defense.
There it is.
And it's
$100 left.
It's a good projection. Really? You know what you can do? San Francisco D in there with your
against Sammy Darnold and with Jordan Mason.
With Jordan Mason. But that's an interesting build. Like that to me, you've got a lot of things covered. What are we missing? We don't have our Dallas game, but that's more like our thing. We kind of like that game.
Yeah, we have.
I don't think the field's high on that game. We're not missing much.
No, and listen, maybe you think the Saints are great and you play it the other way. Just I think that Dallas shellacks them.
Right. So you could always aim to get pieces from that and put it into this, but my takeaway would be you get the highest total on the slate that obviously people aren't really fully getting to. Baker, McMillan, Godwin, run it back with the Amon-Ra. You do use up all your wide receiver pieces like we've talked about. You get Mason in, who's the chalk. Makes sense, especially if CMC's out. You get Pacheco as a piece of that Kansas City Cincy game, not Rice, not anybody else. Mahomes, nothing. He would leverage Mahomes. Look at James Cook to Josh Allen last night. Like everybody knows how that works. And then you still land on Parkinson and Kupp. 2 good prices that when you put them together as one, Kupp could almost equal that, and you just happen to land on a defense that pairs with Jordan Mason.
I think that's pretty good from us. I just had a few questions for you about what you would do in these particular stacks. And I want to build them out just very quickly. If you were going to play Richardson, who would you play him with?
I'd go back to the well on Mitchell. I think other people will too, just because
But Downs might be back.
I think it's still fine. I think they were still looking for him enough. But I mean, obviously you can also just go to Pittman. A lot of things people do in week 2. This goes back to just knowing from many years of playing
People aren't playing Pittman.
Right. They just move off the guys that were, the studs from last week, and they go look to who are the values that had opportunities in week 1 or who actually got the opportunities and did something with them.
One player we did not mention this entire time who I think is very interesting and no one is going to use him is Jaden Reed this week because Malik Willis can't use any Packers. They're going to find ways to get him the ball.
Yep. Definitely think he's interesting. How much is he right now?
$6,000.
Yeah, 6,000.
So the other guy I wanted to talk about was Jaden Daniels. Is it McLaurin or is it Ertz?
Go back to the well with McLaurin for me at least, and then obviously you can get Ertz in there too if you want to just fill out a spot. And then that's how you get to the Wanderlei Robinsons or the Wendale, potato, or Neighbors is really who I want. So that's not. I don't feel like I'm chasing on a guy like Neighbors. He just didn't. People actually think he had a bad game. He had opportunities. He didn't. He had a bad score, a bad result, but he can definitely have a better one this week.
Is there any justification for not playing Jordan Mason and playing Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle?
Always, yeah. I mean, that's pure leverage stack right there. If you're running back, we just saw it last week. If you didn't play Rashad White and you played Baker, Evans, and Godwin, that's prime example. It can happen. This is a little bit different scenario, but only because the injury stuff and the price adjustment, nothing really happened here. So Mason at 5,200 probably will push 50% plus if CMC is out.
All right, that'll do it. On the Pat Mayo Experience, all of that full injury report, rankings update, leverage scores, all in the Mayo Media newsletter for sure. But as Tambo said, I might figure out a way to record the show anyway.
I think you will.
I intentionally didn't bring my good audio box with me, so the audio quality is going to be absolute dog shit if it is.
And you'll still put it out there and just apologize for that in the beginning and then keep rolling with it.
Yeah, probably.
That's the guy we know and love, so we'll be happy. We'll be waiting for that coming out on Saturday and then go from there.
ShipItNation.com. You'll be live on Sunday morning on the Ship It Nation YouTube channel.
Yes, thank you. We're helping grow the channel almost now to 8,000 already. It was just like that. So thanks to the Mayo Media Network. If you haven't subscribed over there, go check it out. If you want to check out ShipItNation.com and just see there's some free stuff over there. There's a free showdown mini course that you can get 45 minutes. Just put your email in, you get that. But also if you want to get in on the action, get into the Discord where all the fun happens. Use code Mayo. Get in there. We'll get you covered.
I'll be back on Sunday evening with Custon Studio, Gary and on the line. So set your calendars for Sunday Night Live as we recap week 2 and guess the spreads for week number 3. And we're making Cust eat out of this like apocalypse thing. Hopefully it's here by then. Like the survival, like bunker people.
Yeah.
Where he adds water to shit. It's getting delivered on Saturday, I think, so we can eat it on Sunday.
Is it an actual one from like back in the day or is it a new one?
No,
to be
it's
like what they would use.
What they would use now.
Oh, okay. What we should do is just time that up, and then like 20 years from now, we get him one that we buried now, and then bring it back and see he has to actually roll with it.
That assumes I'm going to be alive in 20 years.
I think it'll be all right.
Big assumption. Big assumption on your part. Anyway, I'm away for the weekend, but smash the like here, runthesims.com, and all that other fun stuff. Code Mayo, Underdog Fantasy. See, it's right there behind me. You want one of those signs? Maybe use code Mayo. Maybe I can give one away to everyone who uses code Mayo. I don't know if you want one of those signs. But if you do, use code Mayo, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience. Experience.